Well, hi everyone. Good evening and welcome to the Living with Wildlife webinar. My name is Lindsay and I'm a park interpreter in Birds Hill Provincial Park, where we are located on Treaty 1 territory, homeland of the Anishinaabe and the Métis Nation, whose peoples are deeply connected with the plants and the animals of this land. So I'm very glad that you're all joining me this evening. This is a very exciting topic that we're going to be covering tonight. Just a few quick housekeeping rules to go over. Just to let everyone know that the presentation is being recorded and a recording of this will be available on our YouTube channel 24 hours from now. All participants are in listen-only mode, muted, and cameras are disabled. Over the course of the webinar, please use the chat box for comments with other participants, or if you have questions, please feel free to put those in the Q&A box on the Zoom window, and we will strive to answer as many of those questions as we can towards the end of the presentation. So to get us started, we're looking at different wildlife that we see in Manitoba and sometimes the conflicts that we run into with these animals. So to get us started, we're going to start with a poll question. And I'm just going to put that up on the screen. If you have trouble seeing that question, if you're on a mobile device, you may have to tap on the poll on your screen to have it show up. So that poll question should be visible for you now. And the question is, what animals have you had a personal encounter with in Manitoba? So we're defining a personal encounter as an animal that you have seen or heard in the wild, maybe an animal you have photographed, if you have hunted or trapped, and you can choose multiple choices. So any of these animals, your choices are birds, black bears, coyotes, fox, moose, raccoons, skunks, snakes, whitetail deer, and the wolf. Of course, we can't list every animal in Manitoba, so we chose the top 10. And again, feel free to put all the different animals that you've had encounters with into this poll. So we'll just let it run for another moment here. All right. And let's take a look at our results. So birds is definitely our top contender here. Everyone has, I'm sure, seen some sort of birds or heard the birds before, whether it's our songbirds or waterfowl or our birds of prey. Quite a few for black bear and raccoons, which is very exciting. And again, quite a few for whitetail deer. So that's great to see. That just kind of gives us an idea of what type of animals everyone is familiar with seeing or hearing out in the wild. All right, so to continue on with our presentation, we do see a lot of different species of wildlife in Manitoba. In fact, there's about 1,200 different species of wildlife in this province, everything from polar bears and beluga whales up in the north to healthy populations of black bears and white-tailed deer, and numerous species of birds, amphibians, reptiles, fish, and even insects found throughout our province. So wildlife is all around us in Manitoba, and really it's a privilege when we get to see these animals in their natural habitats. But we do need to know how to coexist with them and how to keep ourselves safe and them protected in the environment that we share. So wild animals are vital to the biodiversity of our environment for keeping the balance between all living things and creating a healthy ecosystem. And tonight we're going to focus on 3 main species. So we're going to take a look at the white-tailed deer, the coyote, and our winter birds. And these are animals that often receive a lot of interactions with humans during the winter months. And we're going to find out how you can ensure you and your family are staying wildlife smart around these creatures. So what exactly is it to be wildlife smart? Well, wildlife smart means understanding why we have conflict with wildlife. And this can be for a number of reasons. Could be because of changing populations, could also be areas where wildlife find food, could have to do with highway collisions, or also habitat loss. So being wildlife smart also means understanding how we can take action to reduce the risk of conflict with wildlife, and knowing how to respond appropriately when interacting with wildlife to ensure our safety and protection for the animal. So we really need to remember that we are part of the environment, not apart from it. So it's our responsibility to ensure we are protecting it for the health of the land, the wildlife, and ourselves. So tonight we're going to take a look at these 3 wildlife species and how we can ensure we're having safe encounters with them. And the first one we're going to take a look at is our whitetail deer. So whitetail deer are one of Manitoba's most valued wildlife species, and they are remarkably adaptable and can easily live in close proximity to people, which provides interactions and potential conflict between us and them. Now, this might surprise you, but whitetail deer are actually not native to Manitoba. They are native to the state of Virginia in the US. And these creatures first migrated north along the Red River into Manitoba in the 1880s. Today, they are found throughout southern and central Manitoba, as far north as the Paw. Now, whitetail deer habitat in Manitoba includes agricultural lands, northern boreal forest, aspen parkland, and grasslands, and eastern deciduous forests. And the average population of the deer in Manitoba is between 150 and 160,000 animals. So it's quite a healthy population. Now, females are called does, males are called bucks, and females are called fawns. Whitetail deer are polygamous, and breeding occurs during the rutting season, starting in mid-October, peaking around mid-November, and ending in early December. Bucks lose their antlers after the rutting season finishes, so you won't see them with antlers throughout the rest of the winter season. Now, whitetail deer tracks show their 2 hooves, and they kind of look like an upside-down heart shape in the snow. Deer will often create their own trails throughout the deep snow that they used for quick escapes from predators and from humans. So how exactly do deer survive in the wintertime? A lot of times we think, oh, they must be cold out there in the snow. Well, in fact, whitetail deer are really well adapted to the cold temperatures. In the fall, their winter hairs grow up through their summer hair to form a grayish-brown coat that becomes much thicker and well insulated. Yearlings often stay with their mothers for protection during the first winter, bedding down under trees at night for protection. Deer are herbivores, and their natural food sources are vegetation. In the winter, they will dig under snow for grass and eat bark off of trees. And surprisingly, poison ivy becomes an important winter food source for deer. Their scat reflects their diet in the wintertime. So it's woody, dark in color, and about the size of chocolate-covered peanuts in a pile. Deer typically become food stressed every winter and have developed physiological and behavioral adaptations to help them survive. So starting in the late fall, natural deer food drops in quality and deer shift to eating lower quality woody materials. This seasonal dietary and digestive change can be disrupted by providing deer with relatively high quality food, which unfortunately can lead to bloating, diarrhea, enteritis, which is the inflammation of the intestines, and in some cases, death. Now, most of the conflicts we encounter with whitetail deer are related to a number of factors, such as attractants. So attractants include things that wild animals may consider to be potential food, cover, or water sources. Deer may be drawn into areas of human development due to the presence of attractants, such as food and shelter, such as what we are seeing in some of our cities in Manitoba, like Winnipeg and Brandon. Now, habituation can also be another cause for conflict. A habituated animal has learned through repeated positive or neutral behaviors and encounters with people that there is little reason to fear us. So these animals grow tolerant to people, being in close proximity to them, and they don't avoid people like normal wild animals do. Food conditioning is when a wild animal becomes attracted to human foods or garbage because previous food rewards have given them positive reinforcement for this behavior. So these animals may actively seek out human foods, putting them at danger. Deer that are accustomed to humans and those attracted to supplemental food sources can cause damage to surrounding plants, trees, shrubs, agricultural crops, and stored hay. So supplemental feeding has the potential to increase deer reproduction and survival rates, leading to artificially increased populations that the habitat may not be able to sustain. And this can cause long-term damage to the habitat, both for deer and for other wildlife. And in Manitoba, this is really important. There is no rehabilitation of deer in our province. So if a deer becomes habituated, we cannot rehabilitate them to undo this learned behavior of associating people with food so that they will stop this. And we can't release them back into the wild. They are wild animals. That's something really important for us to remember. They are not pets. And this is not a safe way for us to be feeding wild deer. So populations naturally regulate and balance themselves with predators and available natural food sources. And by feeding deer non-natural food sources, we're basically interfering with the natural balance of their population and the predator population that preys on them. So how do we reduce these risks and have safe wildlife encounters with deer? Well, the first thing is not to be feeding them. So this goes for on your own private property, on the side of a roadway, or in a natural setting like a park. So never try to feed deer by hand or try to pet them. Remember, these are wild animals. They have teeth, they have hooves. You need to be keeping your distance and helping to keep them wild. Feeding deer leads to habituation and can cause more harm and health problems for the animal than actually helping it. We also need to reduce the risk of deer vehicle collisions on roadways by watching for deer crossing signs and slowing down, especially at dawn, dusk, and at night when deer are most active and difficult to see. So watch for the reflection of headlights in the eyes of deer, called eye shine. This is a great job for passengers in your vehicle, especially if you have children and they're looking for something to do in the car. If you do see deer on the side of the road, watch for others that might also be hiding in the tree line. Deer often travel in groups, and after one crosses the road, the others tend to follow. Now, if you do see deer stopped on the road, you need to stop and hold your horn to scare the animal off the road. And I actually had to do this afternoon coming into the park. So while this seems cruel, it actually teaches the deer that roads and vehicles are not where they should be and that they need to be avoiding them in the future. So if you do encounter deer in the wild, maybe out on a trail while visiting a park or even in your yard at home, the important thing is to keep your distance. Whitetail deer are wild animals and you should never approach them, especially those with young, as they may become aggressive, although this is pretty rare. So laying their ears back against their head is a sign of aggression. And if a deer displays this behavior, you need to slowly and quietly move away from the animal, back up, and give it lots of space. If you're taking photos of deer, keep your distance. Do not try to get closer just to get a better shot. Now, always keep dogs on leash to avoid chasing deer. And practicing these wildlife smart tips will ensure that you have a safe encounter with deer and that you're protecting the species. Now, our next animal we're going to look at tonight is the coyote. Now, most of the time, coyotes are timid animals that try to avoid interactions with people. However, coyotes are also very adaptable animals and can be easily or equally comfortable living in urban, rural, and wilderness areas. So with coyotes living among us more and more, we need to learn how to coexist with them. And really, what's in the name of coyote anyway? Is it pronounced coyote or coyote? Well, the proper pronunciation of this animal is actually coyote, and it was mispronounced after the creation of Wile E. Coyote. That's where the word coyote was popularized. And this is, of course, a Looney Tunes character created by Chuck Jones and Michael Martese in 1949. And the name coyote has stuck ever since. So whether you choose to call them coyote or coyote, both are equally acceptable nowadays. Now for this animal, coyotes are found throughout North America, and they are one of the few mammals whose range is actually increasing despite extensive persecution by people. Their traditional habitats in Manitoba include aspen parkland and short and mixed grass prairies. However, they have started spreading north into boreal forests and more developed urban areas, including some of our cities. So reports of coyotes in Winnipeg and Brandon have increased substantially over the past 5 years, likely as a result of increased prey species, such as deer and rabbits, and other available food sources in our cities. So coyotes are slimmer and smaller than a wolf. Coyotes weigh between 9 to 23 kilograms and measure between 120 to 150 centimeters from nose to tail. And they stand about 56 to 66 centimeters at the shoulder. So they're quite a bit smaller than a wolf. A wolf is about 1.5, almost to 2 times larger than a coyote. Now, coyotes' ears are wide, pointed, and standing up nice and tall. They have a tapering muzzle and a black nose. And unlike most other dog species, the top of the muzzle on the coyote forms an almost continuous line with the forehead. They have yellow eyes, unlike most domesticated dog breeds. And coyote's fur is generally a tawny gray color with black tips. The legs, muzzle, and back of the ears are more yellowish in color, while the throat, belly, and inside of the ears are a lot whiter. The tail is darker on top and lighter on the underside, and typically hangs low between the back legs when they're walking. Coyotes' paws are more elongated than that of the dog or the wolf, and they have 4 toes with non-retractable claws. So that means when they're walking, their claws are hanging out. They don't pull in like a cat's claws do, which means you do see the claw marks in the sand or the mud or snow, wherever they're walking. And their claws are actually not used for attack or for defense because they're typically blunted from the constant contact with the ground. So here's a set of coyote tracks in the snow, and you can see they're quite a bit longer than your average dog, whose tracks are usually quite a bit more round. Now, the coyote's sense of hearing and smell are so well developed that a sudden odor or noise can make it change its course in mid-step. And like the wolf, the coyote's best known trait is its yelping and howling cry, a sequence of high-pitched, ear-piercing bays. The coyote can also bark, growl, wail, and squeal. They make quite a few different sounds. And although often silent during the daytime, it may make itself heard at any time from sunset to sunrise, and especially at dusk and dawn. And if you've ever been camping in any of our provincial parks in Manitoba, you've probably heard a coyote at some point during the night. Now, coyotes are well adapted for the winter. Their fur is long and soft and well suited to protect it from the cold. Because it is light colored in the winter and darker colored in the summer, it blends in well with the surrounding seasons. Now, mating takes place in February and March, so coming up. And the monogamous couple maintains a clean den underground that provides protection from winter storms and birthing the pups in the springtime. Now, if food supplies are abundant, pups may stay with their parents the following winter to form a pack. Coyotes are opportunistic omnivores. They will eat just about anything, but their favorite meals include rodents, rabbits, small mammals, and whitetail deer. They're also scavengers, and they will eat carrion, which is dead animals, often on the side of a road. They will also go after small pets, such as dogs and cats. So this is why it's important to keep your pets on a leash. Coyotes can be predators of farm animals, but quite often they will actually go after smaller rodents that can cause more damage and disease on a farm rather than actually going after the livestock. They will go after chickens, however. So if you do have chickens, it's important to keep them in a fenced enclosure to keep them protected. Now, coyote scat varies depending on their diet. If they're eating a lot of mammals, their scat will often contain a lot of hair in it. In the summertime, when their diet includes a lot of vegetation, including berries, nuts, and seeds, their scat will often reflect that as well. Now, a lot of the conflict that we encounter with coyotes is as a result of natural habitat loss and the animal being highly adaptable to human development. So being an opportunistic eater increases the occurrences of coyotes coming into contact with humans. In cities such as Winnipeg and Brandon, we are seeing more signs of coyotes who are likely following the rivers in search of food. As prey populations increase in our cities, such as the deer population, the predaceous coyote population also increases in these same areas. Now, intentionally feeding deer on private property can lure coyotes to these areas. And because coyotes are opportunistic hunters, off-leash dogs can be viewed as an easy meal or a threat to their territory, instigating an attack. So you definitely want to keep your four-legged friends on leash at all times. So how do we reduce these risks and have safe wildlife encounters with coyotes? Well, the first one is never to feed them. Making food available to coyotes and other predators may directly or indirectly by feeding their prey, such as birds, rabbits, or deer, may attract coyotes or other predators to an area. Coyotes that have been fed by people will become increasingly comfortable in approaching people and increasingly aggressive towards them. Coyotes are attracted to food and food waste on properties, such as fallen fruit, pet food, bird seed, and garbage. So it's important to clean these up regularly. Pick fruit that is in your yard that has fallen from the trees. If you can, feed your pets inside a building rather than outside. And if you do have to feed them outside, make sure you're cleaning up after them as soon as they're done eating. Clean up any bird seed on your property if you are feeding the birds, and avoid overflowing garbage, recycling, or compost piles to prevent coyotes from being attracted to your property. Because they are scavengers, they will go after just about anything. So if there's an easy meal of garbage or compost available to them, that can definitely become an attractant for them. Now, here's another important one. If you're going to be out in the outdoors, maybe going for a walk or a run down a trail, or even in a neighborhood park in a town or a city, it's important to be aware of your surroundings. So do not wear earbuds or earphones to listen to music or podcasts when you're in the outdoors, especially in an area where you could encounter a coyote or any other type of wildlife. So be especially observant between dusk and dawn when coyotes and other wildlife are most active. As I've said, keep dogs on a leash or in fenced-in yards. Do not let your dogs run loose, even if you're there to monitor them. Coyotes will go after dogs as an easy prey or to protect their territory. Always walk your dog on leash in appropriate areas, such as neighborhood sidewalks or designated trails in a park setting. Never let your dog run off leash, no matter how tempting it is, especially in rural areas where coyotes are likely living or trap lines may be set. Your dog is safest when it's on a leash and under your direct control. Now, for anyone with young children, it's important to keep them in your sight or in a fenced-in yard. And it's also important to teach children not to approach wildlife, even pet dogs, as you don't know how the animal is going to react. Now, if you do encounter a coyote, they are usually more scared of you than you are of them. But never approach or crowd the animal. Make sure it has an escape route. If you do see one, the important thing to do is to stop, remain calm, and assess the situation. Do not run, as this may cause it to chase you. Pick up small children or small dogs. If you have larger dogs, pull them in close to you. And again, never let your dog chase after a coyote because it will likely attack. If the coyote seems unaware of you, move away quietly when it is not looking in your direction, but keep watch of where the coyote is as you're leaving the area to make sure that it doesn't come and start to follow you. Now, if the coyote does start to approach you, you can try something called hazing the animal. Now, this means teaching the animal to not associate humans with an easy meal or with something that they can come close to. We want to teach these animals that humans are actually a threat to them and that they need to stay away from us. So the best way to do this is to maintain eye contact and stay facing the animal. Make yourself look big, wave your arms, clap your hands. You can throw rocks or sticks towards it and yell loudly for it to go away. Don't scream though, and remember to stay calm. Give the animal lots of space and room to escape, as a trapped animal is often more dangerous and could attack. Now, coyotes are naturally timid animals, and it's important that we keep it that way for the safety of people and pets and protection of the coyote. Now, our last animal that we're going to take a look at tonight are our winter birds. And Manitoba is home to over 390 different bird species, from owls and eagles to songbirds and waterfowl. So birds provide us with a sense of wonder and excitement to see them fly, swim, nest, and flock. And there's something awe-inspiring about birds, the different colors, the shapes and sizes they come in, and all the different beautiful songs that they make. So birds also provide an essential service to us in our neighborhoods and across Canada, including pollinating plants, dispersing seeds, and helping to control insect populations, which I'm sure is something we all appreciate. Now, birds are excellent environmental indicators, and studying birds allows us to understand the overall health of our ecosystem and the environment. In Manitoba, most of our birds have migrated south for the winter to find open water and food sources that are unavailable to them in the winter months. But the birds that do stay here during the winter are adapted to survive the cold temperatures. Birds are warm-blooded, just as we mammals are, and they have a much higher metabolism and thus a higher body temperature. The average bird's body temperature is actually 105 degrees Fahrenheit, or about 40 degrees Celsius. And birds retain heat in their body core by growing extra feathers in the fall time and fluffing out their feathers, making them appear fatter than they actually are. The space between the puffed out feathers warms from their body heat and keeps the bird warm. Similar to if you were to wear a feather down jacket and they're kind of puffy, the space in between all those feathers is warming up from your own body heat. And that's what's actually keeping your body warm when you're outside in the cold in the wintertime. Now, a bird's legs and feet are actually covered with specialized scales that minimize heat loss. So birds can also control the temperature of their legs and feet separately from their bodies by constricting blood flow to their extremities, thereby reducing heat loss without risking frostbite. Now, birds that do stay in Manitoba during the winter are well adapted to find the food they need to survive, including seeds, nuts, and berries from the fall, and insects that are burrowed under tree bark. Some birds are also scavengers and eat carrion, and birds of prey will hunt for rodents hiding under the snow. So they also serve an important role in keeping our rodent populations or rabbit populations in balance. Now, you may be wondering, what possible conflicts could we have with winter birds? But there are actually some, and most of them have to do with feeding birds, which is not really necessary, as they are already well adapted to finding their own food. So feeding birds can cause them to lose their natural instincts to find natural food and cause them to rely on humans to provide food for them. This can be especially dangerous when birds become habituated and then we stop filling the bird feeders, such as if it's really cold outside and you just don't want to go out and fill up that feeder, or if you've run out of bird seed and you stop feeding them. This can actually be a real threat to birds in the wintertime, not having that continuous food source that they've become accustomed to us providing. Now, feeding birds can cause them to lose their natural instincts to find natural food and cause them to rely on humans to provide food for them. This can be especially dangerous when birds become habituated and then we stop filling feeders. Now, bird feeders can also attract other animals such as mice, squirrels, raccoons, skunks, and bears in the spring. So it's extremely important to remove bird feeders in the spring and clean up any leftover bird seed so as not to attract these creatures, especially bears who wake up in the springtime and are looking for food. So how exactly do we reduce these risks and have safe wildlife encounters with our winter birds? Well, first off, if you do want to feed the birds, please do not put up bird feeders in parks or other natural spaces. Although these are often well-intended, these feeders are usually not refilled or maintained throughout the winter months, causing pollution in parks and attracting other wildlife, such as bears, which can cause a whole other set of wildlife conflict. Another important thing to remember is not to feed the birds from your hand. Although this seems like a magically fun thing to do, you're causing the bird to become habituated to humans and causing them to lose their natural fear of us. So if you do want to feed birds, the best thing to do is to feed them on your personal property where you can monitor and upkeep the feeders on a regular basis. So you can then check the feeders every 2 to 3 days, refilling them as necessary. Now, it's also important to clean your bird feeders, and you can do this with a little bit of vinegar and water, or you can try a very light solution of Javix or bleach in the springtime to clean it out and then put it away for the summer season. And this is important because it avoids the buildup of bacteria, something that can actually be deadly to some bird species. Again, if you're going to feed birds in the wintertime, it's important to choose good quality bird food, such as seeds, suet, nuts, peanut butter, and other items that are high in fat and calories to give birds plenty of energy to generate more body heat. Never feed birds bread or other human foods, which can actually cause them to become quite sick. Now, it's important to hang feeders where squirrels and deer cannot reach them and away from windows to avoid birds flying into them, which can cause injury or death. Now, if you really want to help birds, providing a heated bird bath for water, for drinking and preening is actually a really important thing to do. Birds can melt snow to drink if necessary. but doing so will lower their body temperature and use precious energy that is needed to maintain their body heat. So if birds can drink from a heated bird bath, even in freezing temperatures, they have a much better chance at surviving the winter months. Now, if you have a pet cat, it's important to keep them inside in order to protect birds. One scratch from a cat's claw or bite from their teeth will cause a songbird to die because it'll introduce bacteria into the bird's body, which will kill it. And since 1970, a staggering 3 billion birds, close to 1 in 3 individuals, have been lost from Canada and the United States due to cats, as well as habitat loss, pesticides, invasive species, collisions, and climate change. But the good news is, if you want to get involved in conserving birds or even just learning more about them, you can join in citizen science projects with Bird Studies Canada. They offer citizen science projects year-round for adults and children to learn more about birds and ways that you can protect them. So some of the really fun ones you can try are the Christmas bird count, the Great Backyard Bird Count, the Nocturnal Owl Survey, Project Feeder Watch, and Project Nest Watch. So it's important for the health of our wildlife populations in Manitoba to ensure we are avoiding conflict with wildlife and promoting safe interactions and encounters with them. This will help us keep and protect our wildlife safe and keep them wild. So for more information on the Wildlife Smart program, you can visit the Manitoba Wildlife Smart, that's a mouthful, the Manitoba Wildlife Smart website, which is part of our provincial government. There's a lot of really great information on there about living with deer, living with coyotes, living with black bears, and I would just encourage you to go and check out that site if you want more information. There's also our 24-hour tip line that's for turn-in poachers and reporting forest fires. So that is also a number that you can contact if you come into contact with a sick or injured animal, injured wildlife. You can contact the tip line and they will dispatch conservation officers to assess and help that animal. If you're living in the Winnipeg area, Winnipeg Police Services encourages you to contact their phone line, their non-emergency line, to report aggressive coyotes in the city. So if you are just coming across a coyote and there's not an issue with it, no need to contact that number. However, if it is an aggressive coyote that is causing some problems, that is the number they would like you to call. So I hope you've enjoyed learning a little bit about our wildlife in Manitoba and ways that you can have safe encounters with them. If you have any questions, I would be happy to answer them. You can put them into the Q&A box and we'll take a look actually right now and just see if we've got any questions there. So I don't see any there. I'm also going to check our chat box because I know sometimes questions end up in there as well. All right, so I don't see any questions. So again, if you guys have any questions at all about wildlife, please do feel free to put that into the Q&A box and I'd be happy to answer that for you. Oh, so we do have a question here. What is the procedure if you come across an injured animal? All right, so if the animal, if it's wildlife, you can call that 1-800-782-0076. That's our provincial turn-in poachers and report forest fires line. And again, they can also dispatch conservation officers to assess and assist injured or even if it's dead wildlife, they can go to assess and assist with that. The other resource that you could look into for injured or even orphaned wildlife could also be Wildlife Haven. They are a rehabilitation center for wildlife in Manitoba. So you could also contact them if you come across injured or sick wildlife in the province. All right, so we have another question here. The questions are just rolling in now, the guys, that's great. So why don't pileated woodpeckers migrate? So pileated woodpeckers are one of the species that relies on insects that are often burrowed underneath the bark of trees. And woodpeckers in general love dead trees because dead trees often house a lot of insects, especially in the winter months. That becomes a great place for insects to lay their eggs and for the larvae to feed until they emerge as an adult. And so woodpeckers love those trees for being able to find food, and therefore they're able to find lots of food in the winter months. So that's the main reason why a lot of animals don't migrate, is when they're able to find enough food to sustain them over the winter, they will continue to live here. When they can't find food for the winter time, such as our ducks and geese that rely on open water for their food and also for water for swimming and for their shelter. They are the ones that will migrate in the fall time and then come back again in the spring. All right, so another question here. Are you not supposed to feed birds in the summer? Yeah, so we really encourage people not to be feeding birds in the summertime because again, birds have all the natural food sources that they need. And birdseed often attributes to a lot of other wildlife conflict, such as raccoons, skunks, bears, deer, coyotes. Also taking advantage of that bird seed. And so feeding birds in the summertime can cause a lot of other issues to also happen with wildlife. So we really encourage you not to be feeding the birds in the summer. If you are going to put a bird feeder up, the best time to do it is from November until March. So during spring break, especially if you have kids that are home during the week of spring break, a fun chore for them could be to go out and collect your bird feeders, give them a bit of a scrub and put them away for the summer and clean up any bird seed on your property. The kids might not agree that that's a fun chore for them, but the adults probably will. So you can get your kids to help out in that way. So someone else is asking here, can we see coyotes coming into the city? So you'll probably, if you do see coyotes coming into the city, they may be coming up along the streams or riverbanks, kind of following the river system. And so because we do see quite a few rivers and ponds and little streams throughout Winnipeg and even in Brandon, then it is quite possible to see coyotes coming into some of our more urban areas. Times where you may actually encounter them might be more at dawn or at dusk if you're going out for a walk during those times. So those are things to be aware of. All right, I'm just taking a quick look here. There's a question about a bird bath. Should heated bird baths be left out and plugged in all winter? Is there any risk of the birds freezing their feathers if they take a bath in frigid water? So yes, heated bird baths are made, they plug in and they are made to heat the water much the same way that a hot tub does. And so because it's constantly moving the water and constantly providing heat to it, birds would not necessarily freeze inside that water. That water is going to stay liquid, it's not going to become solid. And when birds take a bird bath, really what they're doing is they're kind of splashing the water over their feathers and then they're preening. So they're cleaning off any bits of dust or dirt that are on their feathers or that have gotten trapped underneath them. And they're spreading oils on their feathers. And those oils act almost like a waterproofing layer that help to protect the bird in the wintertime. So I wouldn't say that there's any risk to birds being exposed to a bird bath in the wintertime, as long as it's a heated one and the water is being kept warm. So another question here, this is a really good one. Is it safe to take a walk or a hike during coyote mating season? Yes, it is safe. It's important to know your surroundings and know if there are coyotes immediately in that area. And if there are, you may want to choose a different route to walk. It's also great if you can walk in pairs or with other people from your household to ensure that you're in a bit of a larger group. Talking with each other, making noise is important because the animal will hear that. And they're smart. Their hearing and their sense of smell are very well developed. They will hear us or smell us and take shelter before we even know that they're in the area. So having a conversation while you're out walking is great. If you do have pets, remember to keep them on a leash and keep them under close control nearby you so that they're not attracting coyotes or any other animals towards you. All right, so a question here about, do you suggest that pet owners keep their dogs on leash at off-leash dog parks in Winnipeg? Good question. So off-leash dog parks are typically fenced in for the protection of the animal. And so if you're in a fenced in off-leash dog park, I would say you're probably okay to have your dog off-leash and running. If you're in a non-fenced in dog park, and I know there's Kilkona Dog Park just off of Leash in Winnipeg. That is an off-leash dog area, but it's not fenced in. That's where you really need to be assessing the situation and knowing if there are coyotes in the area, but also knowing your animal, knowing your pet. If they're going to listen, if they're going to stay close to you and they're not going to take off clear across the field where you're not going to be able to catch up to them. So it's really about assessing the area and assessing your animal and just knowing if it's a safe place to have your dog off leash or if maybe it's a better idea to keep them on leash for their safety and yours. All right, another question here about what if we find dead birds that fall under the Migratory Bird Act? I understand there are different laws about handling them. Yes, so migratory birds fall under the Federal Bird Act or the federal government. And so handling those species is a little bit different from if it's a non-migratory bird. Again, you can always contact the tip line or you can also contact the Manitoba General Inquiry. I didn't put this phone number up, but I'll give it to you here if anyone wants to write this down. So this is Manitoba Government General Inquiry is 204-945-3744 or toll free 1-866 Manitoba. And they can always direct you on what to do. Also, if you were to call Wildlife Haven Rehabilitation Center, they can also give you direction on what to do if it is a migratory bird. So any of those resources would be able to help you determine how to handle that situation. All right, it looks like we have run through all of our questions here. So thank you everyone for participating and for asking so many great questions. I hope you've enjoyed the program this evening. Just a quick reminder that we do have upcoming webinars through our Manitoba Parks at Home program. Our next one is our Learn to Ski webinar, which I'm very excited for, on Wednesday, February 3rd at 6:30 p.m. And if you've ever participated in any of our in-person ski clinics in past years at Birds Hill or at Spruce Woods Provincial Parks, we have our wonderful instructor, Ken, who's going to be joining us on Wednesday evening for the ski instruction. So more details and the registration information for that and other upcoming webinars is available on the Manitoba Parks Facebook page or online at manitobaparks.com. If you do come out to visit us in any of our parks this winter, please remember to follow all COVID-19 public health orders. Only visit with members of your household and practice the fundamentals of physical distancing and wearing a mask. Thanks so much, everyone, for joining me this evening. Have a great night and stay safe at home. Good night.